When it comes to video games, I am a solid believer in single-player games. Give me Skyrim, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Breath of the Wild. I used to play Counter-Strike Source back in the day, but I was terrible at it, and so I got really tired of being called homophobic slurs by the 12-year-olds continually headshotting me. So I gave up on multiplayer and never went back. But when it comes to tabletop role-playing games, I've firmly been in the camp of multiplayer. For me, the point of the game is the other people at the table. It's about community and conversation and killing monsters together. It's the interplay and the back and forth of ideas that makes it fun for me. I don't have much of a social life, so I have to get it where I can. When I heard of solo tabletop RPGs, they didn't interest me at first, but I got curious about them a few years ago and conducted some YouTube research. I found a video where a guy was rolling dice and drawing dungeon walls 1d20 in one grid square at a time, and it just seemed boring and time-consuming. Like I said, if I want to solo, I'll just fire up Tears of the Kingdom and swing a sword as Link, with the game's programming as the dungeon master, basically. But I'm an author, so the notion of building a narrative through randomness is kinda compelling. Thousand-Year-Old Vampire intrigued me as a journaling type of game, although I never did actually try that one. Someone in the comments below, please let me know if that game is actually good. Maybe I'll finally give it a go. I also have a set of Rory's Story Cubes that I do find great fun. I've busted these out in storytelling games with my son before. Also, I've used these as a sort of mini-game in D&D where the party encountered a Fey gatekeeper who made them make up a story based on the results of the die rolls. Like, roll a die, start to improv a story based on the picture, then add in another die after a couple sentences and pivot the story based on the new picture, etc. Definitely steal that for your game. It's a cool way to include a non-combat encounter in many different situations. Maybe in some Feywild tavern they don't gamble on card games, they gamble on storytelling games. It seems like something a whimsical Fey location might include, right? Anyway, when Shadowdark was the popular new kid on the block last year, I looked into that game. I made a video about rules you should steal from it, which I'll link to at the end of this video. And before you yell at me in the comments about how you should just play Shadowdark instead of stealing from it, I'll say, sure, if you want to play Shadowdark, then do that. Do what you want, I'm not your boss. Also, my video did get the stamp of approval from creator Kelsey Dion herself, so please quit yelling at me. Anyway, Kelsey first posted on her Arcane Library YouTube channel about using the Mythic Game Master emulator to play solo Shadowdark. I wasn't familiar with the Mythic emulator, so I did some digging. It's basically a system for tracking events and characters, as well as tools for randomizing those events, adding complications, and deciding consequences. I'm not gonna get into too many details about this here. There are plenty of videos out there about how Mythic works. In a more recent video, Kelsey explained that she decided to build something on her own for Shadowdark solo play, and that is how Solodark was born. And the incredible thing here is that she is giving it away in PDF format for free. I mean, she said she spent months working on it, so she certainly could have charged a few bucks for the fruits of her labor. You can definitely tell that Arcane Library is of the community and makes stuff for the community, so I applaud her for that integrity. Also, she said there would be a print version coming eventually. I don't know about you, but I like to hold physical media in my hands. I'm old school. And real quick, since I have you, could I get a like and subscribe below? It only takes a second and it helps us both out. Make sure to click all next to notifications. You're the best. Now let's get into details about Solodark. There are two main rule subsystems here that allow you to adapt the larger set of Shadowdark rules for solo play. And those are the Oracle and Prompts. I'll get into those in a minute. There are also some rules that are modified from the full game, such as Group Initiative for the PC side and the Monster side, as well as an option for Chaos Mode to re-roll initiative each round. Normally, I would not be a fan of this, as constant rolling of initiative each round is going to slow combat to a crawl. But when you're solo, battles are going to go a lot quicker anyway, so it's worth a try. I did not test this out personally, so if you have, let me know in the comments how it affects your gameplay. I'm guessing it feels like a lot to keep track of, especially if you're running multiple PCs and multiple enemies. Also, a light source lasts for 10 rounds instead of an hour of gameplay as it does in the full game. If you remember from Shadowdark, light sources like torches work in real time, which greatly reduces the amount of player futzing around and above table shenanigans. When you don't have dark vision and you've got 15 minutes of real life time left on your torch before you're plunged into darkness inside this pitch black cave, yeah, that's gonna motivate the table. Also, Shadowdark is an always in turns game, so shifting this real-time aspect for solo play makes more sense because when playing alone, you're gonna have to spend time out of game time to make lots of random rolls and ponder what should happen next. Acting as both player and GM means you're going to have to exert effort shifting between those two roles. Turn time could be much more variable in solo play. Also in Shadowdark, you get luck points from the GM, and since there's no GM here, you get luck points on a nat 20 in Solodark. I would personally house rule this for luck points on a nat 1 instead. I've been doing inspiration on nat 1s in my D&D group for a while now, and they seem to like it a lot. It lessens the sting of failure. Now let's talk about the Oracle. In Solodark, the Oracle functions as your GM artificial intelligence as a way to settle yes or no questions. Has the merchant in this potion shop seen my quarry pass through town? Stuff like that. And you can also award the roll advantage or disadvantage depending on how likely you think a yes answer is. Then you roll a d20. On a 1 through 9, it's a no. On an 11 through 20, it's a yes. A 10 results in a twist, where something unexpected happens. You roll on the prompts list to find out what, which we'll cover in a second. Also, if your Oracle check lands on an odd number regardless of success or failure, then the outcome has a but attached. Like, yes, the potion merchant saw your quarry, but it was more than a week ago. Or your quarry did come through, but it was on the back of a prison wagon convoy headed into the hills. And then, prompts. Prompts are just a Mad Lib way to advance the story. When you don't know what should naturally happen next, you roll a prompt which consists of a verb and a noun. Say we're looking for our quarry. We find out the potion merchant had a sighting more than a week ago. Our prompt roll gets us a 7 and a 35, which combined is create asset. Now our next task is going to be to enlist the potion merchant as an asset so we can have that merchant keep an eye out for our quarry in case they come back this way. Or say we get a 39 and an 83, which is unleash theft. Maybe we decide the potion seller isn't being honest, so we need to come back later and break into the potion shop in an attempt to discover the truth. I mean, this is how I used prompts. You may do it differently. I tested this system myself with a quick solo session, just a few scenes. That potion merchant example came from my game. And I found it to be awkward, mostly because I'm not too familiar with solo RPGs. I'm sure I would get better at it if I practiced it a few times. Overall, it did give me some inspiration for possible encounters and scenes I could add into other games, so that part was very useful to jog my creative juices. I could see using this system as a way to run a session if your GM is absent and you still want to play. The players could take turns doing the Oracle and prompts actions. Overall, I appreciate that Solodark has simple and clear rules to add on to Shadowdark, and especially that it's free. Also, the prompts and the Oracle system are generic enough that they would be easy to steal and drop into most tabletop games for solo play. So if you're a fan of the Arcane Libraries game, there's no reason not to download this new supplement. I'll also include a link in the description down below for those story cubes because those are worth checking out. So until next time, I'm GM Jim. Now go have fun playing with yourself. I mean, by yourself. Yes, that's what I meant.